In a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Boston, soft morning sunlight filtered through the bedroom curtains, gently illuminating Caitlin Morrison's face. She woke to the sound of her baby crying in the next room, just a few minutes before her alarm was set to go off. "Good morning, Lily," Caitlin smiled as she headed toward the crib. 6-month-old Lily stopped crying the moment she saw her mother and reached out her tiny hands with a smile. That innocent smile always blew away Caitlin's fatigue. "Mama has to work today too, so we need to do our best," she said. While lifting her daughter, Caitlin glanced at the clock. 7:15. She had to leave the house in an hour. She changed Lily's diaper and started preparing breakfast. While brewing coffee in the kitchen, she called out to her husband Michael, who was still in bed. "Mike, are you getting up? Breakfast is ready." There was no response. With a sigh, she took Lily to the living room and began writing a note for the babysitter. It had been 3 weeks since she returned from maternity leave, and Caitlin had been repeating this routine every day.
"Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it too, link below if you're curious."
As a senior consultant at a real estate company, her days were always busy. Another business trip. Michael appeared in the living room with a suitcase in hand. Though fatigue was visible on his face, he was still an attractive man. As a project manager at an architectural design firm, his business trips had been increasing. "Yes, Chicago. Tonight's flight. Just for 3 days." Caitlin felt a bit disappointed but tried not to show it. Since Lily's birth, their time together had drastically decreased. Michael was a good husband who supported the family financially, but he was passive when it came to childcare. He always prioritized work, and his time at home had diminished. "I put Lily's milk in the refrigerator. Tomorrow's babysitter is new. The previous one quit suddenly." Michael nodded as he took a sip of coffee. "It'll be fine, don't worry. You should focus on work. That promotion is important for you, right?" She couldn't argue with that. Caitlin was at a crucial point in her career. Before giving birth, she had been assured a promotion to team leader, but the competition had intensified after she took maternity leave. If this current project succeeded, she should be able to secure that position. Her cell phone rang, displaying "Ashley" on the screen. Caitlin answered with a slight smile. "Good morning, Ashley. You're up early." "Kate, good morning. Do you have time this afternoon? A new cafe just opened, and I'd love to go together." Her sister Ashley's cheerful voice echoed through the phone. Ashley was a popular fashion blogger who always chased the latest trends. Though she lived a completely different life from Caitlin's, their sisterly bond was strong. "I'm sorry, I can't today. I have a big presentation. I was planning to leave Lily with the babysitter, but..." "Oh, that's too bad. How about this weekend? I'm thinking of inviting Mom too. She seems to be recovering from her cataract surgery last week, but I'm a bit worried." Caitlin remembered her mother, Eleanor. Eleanor had just undergone cataract surgery. Her vision recovery was going well, but in recent months, she tended to become more forgetful when stressed or tired, which concerned the family. "That sounds nice. Sunday would work for me. I'd like to check on Mom too." After ending the call, Caitlin hugged Lily. "The babysitter suddenly canceled, so you'll be coming to Mama's office today." She hurriedly got ready and loaded Lily and her baby gear into the car. Michael had also finished preparing for work and kissed her at the door. "Take care. You're bringing Lily with you, huh?" "Yes, I don't have any other choice. But it's okay, the office has a nursing room." Michael smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I have an important meeting today." "I understand, Caitlin returned a slight smile. While driving, she thought about how she was almost losing herself in the daily bustle. Balancing work and childcare was harder than she had imagined. Still, her heart warmed at the sight of Lily in the rearview mirror. That evening, after Caitlin returned home, she received a call from Ashley. "Kate, I've decided to move back to our parents' house for a while. Some things have come up." There was an unusual hesitation in Ashley's voice. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "No, nothing serious. I just need a break. And I'm worried about Mom too." Though concerned, Caitlin felt reassured knowing her sister would be nearby. Having more family gatherings wouldn't be a bad thing. As she put Lily to bed, she regained her energy for tomorrow. Family bonds were her driving force. Caitlin's work grew increasingly busy. With a major project assigned to her, her office hours started earlier and ended later. The babysitter often canceled suddenly, making it increasingly difficult to balance childcare and work. One Wednesday morning, Caitlin was awakened by a call from the usual babysitter. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Morrison. I can't come in today due to a family emergency." Caitlin put her head in her hands. She had an important meeting with a client today and absolutely had to attend. After hesitating, she called Eleanor. "Mom, good morning. I hate to ask, but could you watch Lily today?" Eleanor was delighted to accept. "Of course, Caitlin. I'm happy to spend time with my granddaughter. But the doctor still doesn't want me driving, so could you bring her over?" "Thank you, Mom. You're a lifesaver." Over the next month, Eleanor watched Lily more and more frequently. What started as emergency coverage became 2 or 3 times a week, eventually becoming Caitlin's default option. Eleanor seemed to genuinely enjoy her time with her granddaughter, and Caitlin was relieved to see her mother more energetic than before. Since returning to her parents' home, Ashley had been strangely restless. She frequently went out and seemed to avoid family time. Then suddenly, she announced she was leaving for an overseas trip. Paris and Milan. "I have to cover Fashion Week," she declared at the dinner table. There was a certain tension in Ashley's expression. Eleanor looked at her daughter with concern. "Are you all right? You haven't seemed yourself lately." "What are you talking about, Mom?" "I'm fine. Actually, I'm really excited." Ashley forced a smile. That night, Caitlin visited her sister's room. "Are you really okay? If something's bothering you, you can talk to me." Ashley sat on the bed, looked down for a moment, then raised her face. "Kate, She stumbled over her words, then abruptly changed the subject. "No, it's nothing. I'm just a little tired. This trip will help me refresh." The following week, Ashley departed. Her social media was soon filled with glamorous Parisian scenes and fashion show photos. However, her communication with Caitlin gradually decreased, and phone calls often ended with, "I'm busy right now," after brief conversations. Caitlin went to pick up Lily. Eleanor was by the window, knitting while watching Lily nap. "How are you doing, Mom? Is your vision improving?" Eleanor smiled. "Yes, it's much better. Though things are still blurry sometimes. And," she continued, a bit embarrassed, "my forgetfulness has been worse lately. Yesterday, I forgot where I put my keys and spent an hour looking for them." Caitlin grew concerned. "Maybe you should consult your doctor." "It's fine. Just old age, I think," Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. "More importantly, have you heard from Ashley? She doesn't seem to be posting on social media lately." Indeed, Ashley's social media had not been updated for about a week. When Caitlin called her, it went straight to voicemail. As she worried and tried calling again, a message arrived from Ashley. I've fallen ill and am coming home early. May not be in touch for a while. Don't worry. 3 days later, Ashley contacted Caitlin to say she was back in America. However, she said she went straight to her apartment instead of the family home. I need some rest. Ashley's voice sounded unusually exhausted. Meanwhile, in Caitlin's household, Michael's business trips continued to increase. Even on days when he was home, their conversations revolved around everyday matters and childcare, having lost the intimacy they once had. One night, after Lily had gone to sleep, Caitlin felt lonely as she sat in the living room drinking wine, aware of how much more time she was spending alone. Mike, we hardly talk anymore. Is it really just work? After a brief pause on the other end of the phone, Michael answered, of course. What are you suggesting? I'm sorry. I just feel lonely. I understand. But I think things will settle down once this project is finished. Just hang in there a little longer. After hanging up, Caitlin stared into the darkness outside the window and thought. Everything seems to have changed. Yet, watching Lily grow gave her daily joy. She cried at Lily's first "Mama" and applauded her first steps. Those moments sustained her. The next morning, she received a call from Ashley after a long silence. Kate, it's been a while. I'm okay now. I have something important to tell you when we meet soon. What is it? Did something happen? I can't say over the phone. But don't worry. I just want to talk to you in person. There was a sense of determination in Ashley's voice. Though anxious, Caitlin had to prepare quickly for a meeting that day. She set aside the conversation with Ashley and switched to work mode. It was the end of a long day. Caitlin had finally put Lily to bed, taken a shower, and settled on the sofa with a glass of wine. There had been no contact from Michael except for a brief message during the day saying his trip was extended by 2 more days. Just as she reached for the remote to turn on the TV, the phone rang. The screen displayed "Mom," and Caitlin frowned. Eleanor rarely called late at night. Could there be an emergency? Mom? What's wrong? Caitlin, Eleanor's voice was filled with anxiety. When are you coming to pick up the baby? I've been watching her for a month now. Caitlin was confused. What are you talking about? Lily is here with me. I just put her to bed. Are you joking? The baby is here. You dropped her off a month ago because you were busy with work and feeling overwhelmed with childcare. Caitlin's heart began to race. Mom, what are you saying? Lily is sleeping in my house right now. I did leave her with you 3 days ago, but I picked her up that same day, remember? On the other end of the phone, Eleanor fell silent. The silence lasted for several seconds, and Caitlin's anxiety grew. Mom? Are you okay? When Eleanor's voice came back, it was trembling. Then, who have I been taking care of? Caitlin stood up and hurried to Lily's room. Opening the door, she checked the bed in the dim nightlight and saw Lily sleeping peacefully. She touched the child's cheek, feeling its warmth and softness. This was definitely her daughter. Mom, please calm down. Lily is definitely here. I think you must be confused. I am not confused. Eleanor's voice had lost its usual gentleness. The baby here is real. All the toys and clothes you brought are here too. You left them here. Warning bells rang in Caitlin's mind. This wasn't just confusion or forgetfulness. Something terribly wrong was happening. She tried calling Michael, but there was no answer. Mom, stay calm. I'm coming over now. And, could you send me a picture of that baby? The moment Caitlin saw the photo Eleanor sent, the blood drained from her face. It was indeed a baby girl who resembled Lily. The same blonde hair, the same round face, and a similar smile. But it was clearly a different child. The eye color was different. Lily's eyes were blue, but the baby in the photo had brown eyes. Though panicking, Caitlin tried to stay calm. "Mom, don't move. I'm coming right over." She quickly packed essentials into her bag and placed the sleeping Lily in her car seat. While driving through the night, her mind was in chaos. Had someone tricked her mother by leaving a baby that resembled Lily? Was this some kind of joke? But the tone of Eleanor's voice had been serious. When she arrived at Eleanor's house, the porch light was on and the door was open. Inside, Eleanor was sitting anxiously in the living room. Her eyes were red, indicating she had been crying. "Mom, where is that baby?" Eleanor pointed upstairs. "Second floor guest room. Sleeping in the crib." Caitlin rushed up the stairs. Opening the guest room door, she saw a crib where a small baby was sleeping. With trembling hands, she turned on the nightlight and looked at the child. In person, she looked even more like Lily than in the photo. The same features, the same sleeping position. But there were differences too. This child's hair was slightly darker than Lily's, and her body was a bit smaller. And then, the name embroidered on the edge of the blanket, Sophia. Caitlin felt her legs weakening. She grabbed the doorframe and took a deep breath. Then, returning downstairs, she found Eleanor standing with a brown bag. "This is the bag you brought. It has all the baby's things inside." Caitlin took the bag and looked inside. Unfamiliar baby clothes, unfamiliar toys, and unfamiliar milk bottles. However, the bag itself was Ashley's. She had seen it many times. "Mom, when did you start taking care of this baby? Who brought her?" Eleanor answered with a confused expression. "You did, Caitlin. You brought her a month ago. You said you were busy with work and feeling stressed about childcare, so you wanted me to watch her for a while." "It wasn't me, Mom," Caitlin's voice was shaking. "I never left Lily with you for a month." Eleanor sat down and held her head in her hands. "But you looked like you to me." "Certainly." She stumbled over her words, then suddenly looked up. "But come to think of it, you seemed a bit different lately. Your hairstyle was different, and you looked shorter than usual." "Ashley," Caitlin whispered. All the pieces started coming together. Ashley's strange behavior, the sudden overseas trip, and the early return citing illness. "Caitlin." Eleanor continued with a trembling voice. "Are you saying Ashley left the baby in your name? But why?" "I don't know, Mom," Caitlin was thinking desperately. "Is this Ashley's baby? But whose child? Why pretend to be me?" Eleanor explained while crying. "Ashley always said, Caitlin asked me to, when she brought the baby. At first, you were with her, but later she came alone. With my forgetfulness getting worse lately, and my poor vision, I thought something was strange, but..." A terrible possibility formed in Caitlin's mind. Michael's long business trips, Ashley's sudden disappearance, and that important talk she said she had. With trembling hands, she took out her cell phone and called Michael again. Still no answer. Next, she dialed Ashley's number, but it immediately went to voicemail. "Ashley, call me back right now. I need you to explain what's going on." After leaving the message, Caitlin hugged her mother. "Mom, this isn't your fault. You were deceived. But we'll figure this out together." She returned upstairs and gazed at the sleeping Sophia. This innocent child was blameless. When she gently touched her cheek, the the baby moaned softly and turned over. Caitlin's heart was filled with pain and anger. Back downstairs, her cell phone rang. The screen displayed Michael. She took a deep breath and answered. "Mike, I need an explanation right now. What's going on?" However, Michael's voice was unexpectedly calm. "Kate, what are you talking about?" "About Ashley's baby. Her name seems to be Sophia. She's at Mom's house. What is going on?" On the other end of the phone, Michael gasped audibly. Then after a long silence, he said in a small voice, "Let's talk when I get home. I'll take the first flight back tomorrow morning. We need to talk urgently." After hanging up, Caitlin felt her whole body trembling. She picked up Lily, kissed Eleanor. "Mom, I'm going home tonight. Tomorrow, Michael is coming back, and everything should become clear. Until then, could you please take care of this baby? Sophia?" Eleanor nodded quietly. "Of course. But, Caitlin, are you okay?" "I don't know, Mom," Caitlin answered honestly. "But I need to know the truth." On the way home, Caitlin's mind was filled with terrible possibilities. Her heart trembled with anxiety and anger. The Boston sky was heavy and gray in the morning, like a premonition of what was to come. Caitlin had barely slept all night, finally dozing off around dawn. Strangely, Lily slept longer than usual. At 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Caitlin hurried to the door and opened it. Michael stood there. His face was exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. He stared at Caitlin without saying a word, suitcase in hand. "Come in," Caitlin said coldly. In the living room, Michael sat on the sofa and held his head in his hands. "Kate, I'll explain." "Explain." "Everything." Just as Michael was about to speak, her cell phone rang. It was from Ashley. "Kate, I'm at our parents' house now. I heard from Mom about last night. We need to talk." An hour later, Caitlin arrived at Eleanor's house with Lily. Michael said he would come separately. He said he needed time to collect himself first, but to Caitlin, it seemed like he was simply running away. When she arrived at the family home, Ashley was standing on the porch. She looked haggard, unrecognizable from her once glamorous self. Dressed in black jeans and a plain sweater, she burst into tears at the sight of her sister. "Kate, I'm so sorry." Caitlin silently walked past Ashley and entered the house. Eleanor was waiting in the living room. Her eyes were clouded with sadness and confusion. And little Sophia was sleeping in her arms. "Michael hasn't arrived yet?" Eleanor asked. "He's coming later." Ashley entered the living room. She sank to the edge of the sofa and began speaking in a small voice. "I'll tell you everything. No more hiding." She took a deep breath and continued. "Michael and I had an affair." Pain shot through Caitlin's chest. She had suspected it, but actually hearing it felt like her heart was being crushed. "Since when?" "Since last winter. When you were on maternity leave, he said he was lonely." Eleanor gasped. "Ashley. With your sister's husband." "I know, Mom. It was the worst thing I could do." Ashley had tears in her eyes. "But we really loved each other. At least, that's what I thought." Staring out the window, Caitlin quietly said, "And then you got pregnant." Ashley nodded. Michael panicked. "He told me he needed time and suggested an abortion, but I wanted to have this child. He said he couldn't leave Caitlin and Lily, but he swore he loved me." The doorbell rang, and Michael entered. The atmosphere in the room instantly froze. He alternately looked at Ashley and Caitlin, then at the sleeping Sophia. So she's my child. Ashley stood up and said angrily, "Have you forgotten what you promised me? You said, I'll leave Caitlin and we'll live together." Michael shook his head. "I was confused. I didn't want to hurt you." "Liar." Ashley's voice echoed through the room. Lily woke up startled and began to cry, and Sophia also woke up and started crying. The crying of the two babies overlapped, making the situation even more chaotic. Caitlin picked up Lily and said quietly, "Michael, you've been lying all along while having two women and two children." Michael's shoulders slumped. "Kate, I didn't know what to do. I love you. But Ashley too, and when I learned Sophia was born, I couldn't help but love her too." As Eleanor comforted Sophia, she turned to Ashley. "But why did you pretend to be Caitlin when you left the baby with me?" Ashley said shamefully, "I knew about your cataracts. I took advantage of the fact that you couldn't see clearly. As a fashion blogger, I study people's clothing and appearance, so it wasn't difficult to behave like Kate." She continued, "The overseas trip was a lie too. Actually, I was hiding to give birth. I spent time in a rehabilitation facility, getting my figure back." She broke down crying. "I'm the worst, aren't I?" Despite feeling intense anger, Caitlin also felt something else rise within her as she looked at both babies. She turned to Ashley. "You betrayed my trust. You destroyed our family bond. And what I can't forgive most is that you exploited Mom's condition. Mom believed in us and loved us." Eleanor was crying quietly. "To think they used my vision problems and forgetfulness, that I couldn't even tell my own daughters apart." "Mom, it's not your fault." Caitlin moved closer to her mother. "You were deceived." Michael approached Sophia and touched her tiny fingers. "My daughter. She may be your daughter, but you have no right to be a father." Caitlin's words were sharp as a blade. "You don't understand the meaning of family at all." Ashley tried to approach Caitlin, but her sister stepped back. "Kate, I truly regret it. At first, I thought, I don't want to destroy your home. But I was actually being selfish. I believed Michael and thought he would give up everything for me and Sophia. Do you understand what you've done?" Caitlin's voice was quiet but filled with strong anger. "You've completely destroyed the family's trust. And to exploit Mom's condition. I can't forgive that." The room was enveloped in heavy silence. Outside, rain had begun to fall, and only the sound of raindrops hitting the window could be heard. Strangely, both babies had quieted down and seemed to be looking at each other. Holding Lily close, Caitlin said, "The only innocent ones among us are these children. For their sake, we have to find some solution." Eleanor nodded. "That's right. These girls are half-sisters. They're innocent." Michael and Ashley silently stared at the floor. They seemed to finally begin understanding the weight of the consequences their actions had caused. 6 months later, Boston's autumn was adorned with beautiful fall foliage. Caitlin was gathering fallen leaves in the garden of her newly purchased small house. Lily, now past her first birthday, had begun toddling. Next to her, Sophia was similarly playing, chasing leaves. "Let's go inside, you two." "It's getting chilly," Eleanor said, coming out to the garden wearing a warm coat. She had recently been diagnosed with early-stage dementia, but with proper treatment, her symptoms had stabilized. Her vision had fully recovered from the surgery, and she only needed thin reading glasses for daily activities. "Mom, thank you for today. Work has been busy, so this is a big help." Caitlin expressed her gratitude to her mother. The divorce proceedings had been completed 3 months ago, and Caitlin had been promoted to vice president at the real estate company. She had boldly purchased a new house and was determined to raise Lily on her own. However, she was never alone. Eleanor had become a strong ally, and surprisingly, Sophia had also become part of her life. Michael and Ashley had tried to continue their relationship for a while, but it eventually fell apart. Ashley had left most of Sophia's upbringing to Eleanor and Caitlin, focusing on rebuilding her career. And 2 months ago, she suddenly announced she was moving to Los Angeles with a new boyfriend. "I was deceived again," Ashley said as she left. "Michael was never serious from the beginning. I was just a diversion." Michael had been isolated from both families. He paid child support regularly and was allowed to see Lily and Sophia only once a month. However, those visits were always tense. Snack time, Eleanor seated the 2 toddlers in the living room and arranged fruit on a small table. Caitlin watched them from the kitchen. Though Lily and Sophia were half-sisters, they got along like twins, imitating each other's movements. They sometimes quarreled but quickly made up and laughed together again. "It's strange, isn't it?" Eleanor said as she entered the kitchen. "After such a beginning, we've now become one family." Caitlin smiled. "Yes. At first, I thought I couldn't accept it. But when I look at Lily and Sophia, they need each other. And I need them too. There's something thicker than blood," Eleanor said while pouring coffee. "Perhaps so." Caitlin stood by the window, gazing at the autumn leaves in the garden. "We all make mistakes. But what's important is the choices we make afterward." She returned to the living room and hugged the 2 girls. "We're imperfect, but we're still family." Lily and Sophia responded with innocent smiles, touching Caitlin's cheeks with their small hands. She felt that pure affection gradually healing her wounded heart. Outside the window, the wind danced, lifting red and yellow leaves into the air. The seasons were changing, and so were their lives. It wasn't an ending, but a new beginning.